Chosen one, listen beyond the natural and receive these words with your spirit. You did not arrive at this moment by coincidence. Heaven appointed this encounter long before you ever took your first breath. Every step, every heartbeat, and every experience that brought you here was guided by divine intention. You are now standing before a sacred doorway. A supernatural shift where what seemed postponed is about to be placed into your hands. The Father has witnessed every tear you shed, every season you waited, and every moment you remained faithful when your soul felt ready to surrender. Now He is releasing this word to ignite your faith again. Anointed one. These are more than encouraging words. This is a summons from heaven. You are approaching a breakthrough, carrying financial empowerment, healing for your emotions, and elevation in the spirit. The transfer of wealth you have prayed to experience is no longer somewhere in the future. It is already present, awaiting your faith and agreement. Deuteronomy 8:18 reminds us that it is God who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and that divine ability is awakening within you even now. Chosen one, raise your expectation. Heaven has never overlooked you. This is your assurance, your awakening, and your appointed moment to stand up and move forward. Remain until the final revelation, because what is about to be unveiled will bring every part of your destiny back into divine alignment. Chosen one, pay close attention. The individual occupying your thoughts at this moment is not there without purpose. That bond did not enter your life through random circumstances. It was woven into your journey before your birth, when your paths first crossed. Heaven was already working behind what you could see. God arranged that encounter as a significant part of your divine timeline. It was never merely about affection, companionship, or emotional security. It was connected to purpose. Every conversation you shared, every unspoken moment, and even every season of separation has carried a deeper meaning. Anointed one, I have experienced a connection like this personally. I understand what it is to carry a bond that cannot be easily explained through human reasoning. There were nights I cried, asking God, if you joined this, why does it hurt so much? But I learned that when something carries eternal weight, it attracts warfare. The enemy never fights what doesn't threaten him. He fights what's anointed. That's why the pressure has been so heavy. It's not punishment. It's proof. Proof that the bond is divine. That something powerful is being birthed through this struggle. Think back to when you first met them. You felt peace, familiarity, maybe even destiny. That was heaven's fingerprint. But what started as light has become fire. And now you're standing in the middle of a storm, wondering if it's time to let go. Hear me clearly. Don't. The enemy wants you to walk away before you see what this was all for. Because when two chosen ones remain united, they become a force that breaks generational curses and opens doors for others. Chosen one. The silence is not absence. It's strategy. God is working in the unseen, softening hearts, aligning timing, and teaching you patience. Don't mistake stillness for abandonment. Roots grow underground before the fruit appears. And right now, God is building those roots. The very tension you feel is a sign that the breakthrough is near. I know the waiting feels unbearable. You're tired, confused, even questioning if you heard God right. But this is your final test of endurance. Heaven is watching to see if you will trust beyond understanding. If you quit now, You may walk away one day before your miracle. Hold steady. The pain you feel is not the end. It's the stretching before expansion. Chosen one, lift your head. This is not falling apart. This is falling into divine order. The connection still stands because heaven hasn't released you from it. Don't surrender what God has assigned. Stay in prayer. Speak life, not frustration. Bless instead of complain. Because when you shift your focus from pain to purpose, you activate the supernatural. The enemy is terrified of what will happen if you stay faithful, and heaven is ready to reward your endurance. You are standing on sacred ground. Don't walk away. In the next moment, we'll go deeper into why the warfare is so intense and how God is turning this battle into your greatest breakthrough. Chosen one, listen. The intensity you've been feeling lately is not a coincidence. The sleepless nights, the emotional weight, the sudden waves of doubt. All of it is evidence that something holy is under attack. The enemy doesn't fight what's meaningless. He targets what carries divine potential. And this connection, this person on your heart carries a purpose that heaven refuses to let die. Anointed one, what you're facing is not just conflict between two people. It's a spiritual battle for destiny. The moment your paths crossed, hell took notice, because two anointed souls aligned in obedience to God create a power the enemy cannot imitate. Unity under divine command. That's why confusion tries to creep in. That's why silence feels unbearable. The enemy whispers, "It's over." When, in truth, it's just beginning. You see, the enemy has no power to destroy what God joins, only to deceive you into walking away. His favorite tactic is exhaustion. He doesn't strike you with one blow. He wears you down with small disappointments, subtle lies, and emotional storms, until you start believing the voice of fear instead of the promise of faith. But remember this, chosen one, discernment is your shield. God's voice never pushes you into panic. It pulls you into peace. I've been there. I know the ache of standing in faith for something that seems impossible. There were days I told God, I can't keep doing this, only to feel his quiet whisper, "You're closer than you think." And he was right. The pressure you're under right now is not proof of failure. It's the sign that the promise is about to manifest. It's always darkest before the dawn. And right now, heaven is breaking that dawn open for you. Chosen one, understand this. You're not just waiting for restoration. You're being trained for reign. God is shaping your patience, sharpening your discernment, and deepening your compassion. You're learning not to love for comfort, but to love with purpose. The kind of love that can carry legacy, not just emotion. This connection is preparing you to steward abundance, favor, and divine influence. And yes, there are moments when you want to quit, but every time you try, your spirit aches because something inside knows you're not meant to give up. That ache is heaven reminding you that destiny doesn't dissolve in difficulty, it matures through it. Anointed one, heaven is moving behind the curtain. The unseen realm is alive with motion. Angels are at work even as you listen now. The silence is not God's absence. It's his setup. He's orchestrating transformation on both sides. You're being refined. And so is the one connected to you. Do not let discouragement write the final chapter. The battle is proof of how much power this union holds. The enemy is terrified of the ripple effect. Your obedience will release healing in families, restoration in generations, faith revived in hearts that had gone cold. This is not small. This is kingdom-level warfare. So, chosen one, stand firm. Pray like a warrior. Love like a servant. Trust like a child. And hold on as heaven finishes what it started. In the next part, we'll go deeper into how to fight this battle. Not with emotion, but with authority, because this time, you're not just surviving the storm, you're commanding it. Chosen one, now that you understand why the warfare is so intense, it's time to learn how to fight, not as a victim, but as a vessel of authority. The battle you're in is not meant to drain you. It's meant to train you. Heaven is not asking you to swing at shadows or argue with flesh. This fight is spiritual, and your greatest weapon is alignment with God's voice. Anointed one, your first act of warfare is prayer. Not the rushed kind whispered in frustration, but prayer that anchors your spirit in heaven's reality. When you pray for that person, don't focus on their flaws or your pain. Speak life. Bless their name. Ask God to fill them with clarity, peace, and obedience. The enemy cannot thrive in an atmosphere of blessing. When you choose to bless, you starve the darkness that feeds on bitterness. And I say this from experience. There was a time when I thought arguing would fix what prayer could not. But every word spoken in anger left me emptier. It wasn't until I fell to my knees and whispered their name to God. No accusation, no demande, just surrender, that things began to shift. Peace entered where confusion once lived. Because prayer doesn't always change people first. It changes you. Chosen one, your second weapon is silence. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence of wisdom. You don't have to defend yourself when heaven is already speaking for you. Sometimes the loudest act of faith is saying nothing at all. Let your restraint become proof of your strength. The enemy thrives on reaction, but he has no strategy against peace. When you remain still, you allow God to fight in your place. Third, you must clothe yourself with patience. Yes, patience is warfare. It is the refusal to rush God's timing. It's the quiet declaration that says, I trust you even when I don't understand. Waiting does not mean weakness. It means wisdom. Every day you choose patience. You reinforce heaven's timeline over your own. Remember this. Delay is not denial. God uses delay to prepare both hearts for divine alignment. And here is a truth that might pierce you. Sometimes God hides progress so your pride won't sabotage it. What you think is silence is often God protecting something sacred from premature exposure. Don't dig up what is still growing. The seed cannot survive if you keep checking the soil. Anointed one, heaven has assigned angels to your endurance. Every time you hold your tongue, heaven records it. Every time you forgive instead of accuse, heaven applauds it. Every time you choose faith over frustration, heaven strengthens your foundation. The unseen realm moves when you do. You're not just waiting. You're warring with your stillness. This is what it means to fight from victory, not for it. God already wrote the ending. The outcome is sealed. Your only task is to remain in position until the promise appears. Chosen one. This battle isn't meant to break you. It's meant to build your authority. You are learning to speak like heaven, to act like grace, to stand like faith. And when this season ends, you won't just have restoration, you'll have revelation. You'll understand why the fire had to burn, because it purified what's coming next. Stay close. Anointed One. In the next part, we'll go deeper into what happens when the breakthrough begins. How God takes the ashes of what was painful and turns them into proof that His promise never fails. Chosen one, hear me. The very moment you choose not to quit, heaven begins to move. Your persistence becomes a signal to the spiritual realm that you are ready for release. What once looked silent suddenly starts to shift. The same doors that refuse to open will begin to creak. The same hearts that turned cold will begin to soften, because faith, when it endures, creates motion in the invisible. Anointed One. This is the stage where everything feels contradictory. You may still see no change. You may still feel tension, distance, or uncertainty. But make no mistake, this is the shaking that comes before manifestation. Every divine promise requires birth, and birth always comes with pressure. Don't misinterpret pain as punishment. It's the sound of new life pushing through. I remember the moment breakthrough first touched my life. It didn't arrive with fireworks or applause. It came quietly through a text I almost ignored, a door I almost didn't knock on, a conversation that seemed ordinary but carried destiny. That's how God moves. Subtle, strategic, supernatural. If you blink too soon, you'll call it coincidence. But the spiritually awake know better. They recognize the divine fingerprints in the smallest details. Chosen one. This is where discernment becomes vital. When breakthrough begins, the enemy will try to create imitation blessings. Counterfeits will appear, easier paths, convenient exits, distractions wrapped in comfort. You must stay anchored in prayer so you can distinguish the real from the false. The true blessing carries peace, not pressure. It draws you closer to God, not further from Him. Heaven is not just restoring what was lost. It's upgrading what was delayed, what you thought you lost in time. God is repaying in acceleration. Where there was confusion, there will be clarity. Where there was distance, there will be divine alignment. The person on your heart is not forgotten. They are being refined. You are not waiting in vain. You are being positioned for a reunion rooted in purpose, not pain. Anointed One, the breakthrough season is sacred. Do not rush it. God's timing is a masterpiece. Every delay has built endurance in you. Every silence has deepened your dependence. Now heaven is preparing a stage for restoration that will leave no doubt who orchestrated it. You will stand in awe, realizing that the very storm that almost broke you was the one that brought you here. So hold on to your assignment. Stay in prayer. Speak blessings daily, even when you don't feel them. The heavens respond to consistency. The angels move on the command of faith. You've planted seeds with your tears, and the soil of obedience is finally ready to bear fruit. Chosen One, breakthrough doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it begins with a shift in your peace. When what used to trouble you no longer shakes you, that's when you know heaven is near. The old version of you is gone. The fear that once ruled you is losing its grip. You are walking lighter, because grace has taken over the weight. This is the promise. God is not just bringing restoration to your connection, He's bringing resurrection to your spirit. You're not returning to what was, you're stepping into what's new. The battle refined you, but the blessing will redefine you. Stay close. Anointed One. In the next part, we'll explore what happens when the promise fully manifests, how to carry your restoration with wisdom, humility, and power, so that this victory becomes not just your testimony, but a legacy that touches generations. Chosen one. When the promise finally unfolds before your eyes, it may not appear the way you imagined. It will appear better. God never gives back what was broken in the same condition. He rebuilds it with glory. When heaven restores, it doesn't repair fragments. It creates something brand new out of what was surrendered. That's why your waiting season was long, not because God was fixing what was lost, but because He was transforming what was meant to last. Anointed one. Now your heart begins to sense divine alignment. The situation that once drained you now brings peace. The person who once caused pain now reflects purpose. It isn't because they changed first. It's because you did. God had to shift your heart posture before He could shift your partnership. You've learned to love without control, to believe without seeing, and to forgive without being asked. Those are the rare currencies of heaven, and they are what prepared you for this moment. When the promise manifests, you'll know it in your spirit before you see it in your sight. The atmosphere around you shifts. Chaos that once followed you becomes still. Opportunities align effortlessly, and timing feels sacred instead of stressful. That's how you'll know. Heaven's fingerprints are all over it. Chosen one. Do not rush the revelation. When God gives you what you prayed for, don't grab it with fear. Carry it with wisdom. What you're holding is not a trophy. It's a trust. You weren't blessed to boast. You were blessed to serve. This restoration, this divine connection, this supernatural transfer, it's not only about you, it's about the generations that will be touched, because you stayed faithful. I remember when God restored something I thought was gone forever. I was grateful, but I was afraid. Afraid it wouldn't last. Afraid I'd lose it again. But then the Holy Spirit whispered, "This time you're not walking in anxiety. You're walking in authority." And that changed everything. I realized the true miracle wasn't what came back. It was who I became while waiting. Anointed one. When the blessing appears, stay humble. Don't announce what God did. Embody it. Let your peace preach louder than your explanations. Those who doubted you will see the evidence in your fruit. Those who wronged you will witness your rise and know that it was God. This is your Joseph moment. The ones who once underestimated you will one day thank you, and you will respond not with pride, but with mercy. Chosen one. This blessing is not temporary. It's generational. The same hands that once held sorrow will now hold abundance. The same mouth that once prayed through tears will now speak with authority. Everything that once broke you will now bow before your breakthrough. But guard your promise. Protect it from pride, from distraction, from careless voices that cannot comprehend its value. Not everyone will understand this season, and that's fine. This is not for their validation. It's for your destiny. Your story is not over. Chosen one. It has just begun. Heaven is unfolding the next chapter of your divine calling. And this time you'll walk in wisdom, wealth, and unstoppable grace. Chosen one. Now that your breakthrough has appeared, heaven is watching how you carry it. The story didn't end. When the blessing came, it began again on higher ground. What you do after the miracle matters just as much as what you did while waiting for it. The season of manifestation is not a time to relax. It's a time to walk with reverence, because every answered prayer must now be managed with wisdom, or it can slip away through neglect. Anointed one, you are standing in answered prayer. The peace you once begged for is here. The connection you thought was gone has been restored. The storm that nearly broke you has cleared. But hear this. Blessings without boundaries can become burdens. You prayed for favor, and God delivered. But every divine gift carries divine responsibility. Don't let comfort make you careless. What you hold in your hands was born through fire, through tears, through intercession. Treat it with honor. Speak to it with grace. Protect it through prayer. I've witnessed many lose what heaven entrusted to them because they stopped doing what brought the blessing. They prayed for restoration, but stopped seeking intimacy with the restorer. They cried for favor, but forgot the humility that invited it. They assumed the oil would keep flowing, even when the altar grew cold. But chosen one, favor is sustained by gratitude, and oil continues to flow only where humility remains. Never allow the fulfillment of your prayers to weaken your need for the one who fulfilled them. This season is revealing the depth of your spiritual maturity. God did not prosper you merely so you could live comfortably. He blessed you so your life could become undeniable evidence of His faithfulness. The way you manage what has entered your hands will influence the height of the next level He entrusts to you. Move with patience, wisdom, and inner peace, because people are observing how you carry favor. Let your calmness preach without words. Let your thankfulness become a ministry of its own. But understand this clearly. The enemy who once fought to prevent your breakthrough may now attempt to poison what has been released. He will try to turn provision into distraction, progress into pride, peace into anxiety, and joy into doubt. There may be moments when unexplained frustration, restlessness, or confusion begins to surface. Do not be surprised. Spiritual warfare does not always disappear. Sometimes it simply changes its appearance. The battle is no longer only about receiving the promise. It is now about preserving it. How will you remain victorious? Stay rooted in God. Continue praying. Keep worship alive. Do not abandon the presence of God simply because the answer you sought has finally arrived. Prayer is no longer only the cry you make while waiting. It has become the covering that guards what you have received. Worship is no longer an expression of desperation. It is an acknowledgement of who God is. Keep the fire on your altar burning, even when your life overflows with abundance. Protect the tenderness of your heart. Remain attentive to His voice, and keep your spirit clothed in humility. Anointed one, I speak from personal experience. When God brought restoration into my life, I assumed the greatest struggle had ended. Then I discovered that carrying a blessing often demands even greater discipline than enduring suffering. Pain naturally brings you to your knees, but prosperity reveals whether you will remain there after the tears are gone. This is one of the ways heaven examines maturity. God does not merely desire to bless you. He desires to know that He can trust you. Chosen one, move with wisdom. Do not react to everything. Let your responses come from the Spirit. Before you release your words, seek the peace of God. Remember, the one you prayed for is still growing, still healing, still human. Love them through grace, not perfection. Heaven didn't restore you to return you to comfort. It restored you to propel you into purpose. You are not just a receiver of grace. You are now a representative of it. Guard this promise as treasure, because what you carry is not just blessing, it's proof that faith still works. and obedience still opens heaven. Chosen one. Every true victory transforms the vessel that carries it. You cannot experience the power of God and remain the same. The moment you step into answered prayer, heaven begins shaping you for a greater mission. This season is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new chapter, one that requires a stronger spirit, a wiser heart, and deeper humility. Anointed one. Triumph is not only about what you gained, it's about who you became. You've been refined through waiting, purified through warfare, and matured through surrender. Now you are standing as someone who has walked through the fire and come out glowing with grace. But hear this truth. When God elevates you, He expects you to reflect Him. The blessing wasn't given just to comfort you, but to confirm your calling. You are now carrying anointing that others will feel just by being near you. People will notice your peace, your discernment, your light. Even when you say nothing, that's because victory changes your spiritual frequency. You've moved from survival to sovereignty, from pleading to partnering. Heaven now trusts you with influence, and influence is holy ground. But be careful. Chosen one, the enemy will try to use your victory against you. He'll whisper pride into your progress, distraction into your purpose. He'll tempt you to forget the wilderness that built your wisdom. Remember this. Elevation without humility becomes erosion. Guard your heart from arrogance. Let gratitude remain your language. Speak less about what you have and more about who gave it to you. I've lived this lesson. When God began to promote me, the applause was louder. But so was the testing. The higher you rise, the more subtle the warfare becomes. It shifts from obvious attacks to disguised distractions. That's why your intimacy with God must stay deeper than your influence. Never allow public success to outgrow private surrender. Anointed one. Transformation after triumph also means learning to pour into others. You were refined not just for your own restoration, but to be a restorer of others. There are people connected to your obedience. Your testimony will become their roadmap out of darkness. The same encouragement you once needed will now flow through you. You've been trusted with scars, so others can be healed by your transparency. Chosen one. Your story is no longer just personal, it's prophetic. Every breakthrough you've lived carries revelation for someone else. That's why you must keep walking in compassion. Don't isolate your victory. Multiply it. When you share your process, the waiting, the pain, the surrender, you give others permission to believe that God can do the same for them. The greatest transformation of all is this. You now operate from rest, not striving. You've learned that the same God who carried you through the storm will sustain you in the calm. You don't chase outcomes anymore. You host presence. You're no longer begging heaven to move. Heaven is moving through you. That's maturity. That's mastery. That's divine transformation. So walk differently now. Speak with authority, but stay gentle. Lead with boldness, but remain teachable. Love with depth, but without attachment to outcome. You're not who you were when this started. You are a carrier of divine wisdom, a living testimony that obedience always leads to overflow. Stay tuned. Anointed one. In the next and final part, we'll bring it all together. How to live from overflow, how to sustain your divine alignment, and how to ensure that the fire God started in you never fades, but continues to light generations after you. Chosen one. This is the season heaven promised you, the season of overflow. You've prayed, you've waited, you've endured, and now the evidence of your faith is appearing. But remember, overflow is not just about blessings falling into your hands. It's about the person you've become through the process. God didn't just prepare the promise for you. He prepared you for the promise. Anointed one. Overflow begins in your spirit, not your bank account. God had to empty you first of pride, fear, and impatience, so that when the blessing came, it wouldn't destroy you. Every delay expanded your capacity to receive. Every heartbreak made room for humility. Every unanswered prayer strengthened your trust. You were not being punished. You were being positioned. Now doors will open with ease. Opportunities will find you. The same ground where you once sowed in tears will now yield joy and provision. You are walking in answered prayer. But not because of luck. This is divine recompense. Heaven has recorded every moment. You remained faithful when quitting felt easier, and now the reward is being released. Chosen one. Never forget, the overflow is not for luxury. It's for legacy. God is blessing you so you can bless others. The restoration of your relationship, the return of peace, the rise of resources, they are all tools to serve a greater kingdom purpose. You're not called to hoard favor. You're called to distribute it. You are a vessel, not a vault. But the same God who gives overflow also expects stewardship. Guard your heart in this season. Stay humble in success and prayerful in abundance. Gratitude keeps your hands open. Pride shuts heaven's flow. Keep reminding yourself, it was never your strength. It was always His grace. Every morning speak this truth. God, keep me a vessel you can trust. Anointed one. You've crossed from striving into alignment. You don't chase miracles anymore. Miracles flow through you. You don't seek validation. You walk in divine assurance. This is what overflow feels like. Peace that doesn't depend on circumstance. Joy that doesn't fade. And provision that seems to multiply effortlessly. So walk boldly, but gently. Speak with power, but stay tender. You are now living proof that faith still moves mountains and obedience still opens heaven. Let your life become a testimony that reminds others, waiting on God is never wasted time. Chosen one. This journey was never defined by what disappeared from your life. It was always about the person you were becoming through it all. Now step forward and live from the abundance within you. Love without restraint. Give with an open heart. Lead with discernment. Let every decision you make testify that the God who made the promise has remained faithful to fulfill it. Your chapter of constant struggle is closing, and your season of supernatural increase is opening as these words draw to an end. Become still for a moment and receive this truth deeply. Heaven has already intervened on your behalf. The divine transfer is in motion. What you whispered in prayer behind closed doors is beginning to emerge where your eyes can see it. You are standing in your Kairos moment, the sacred meeting place where faith encounters fulfillment. Nothing has been misplaced, and nothing is unfolding outside God's order. Every delay, every unanswered moment, and every tear you shed has been gathered by God and woven back into the design of your destiny. Anointed one, let this be your confirmation. The promise still carries life. What once appeared weak has now been strengthened. The relationship, the assignment, and the provision are all being restored with heavenly accuracy. You do not have to force the outcome. Your responsibility is simply to remain where God has positioned you. Continue in faithfulness. Keep your expectation alive. Heaven's timing has never failed, and your obedience has prepared the way for what is now unfolding. As you move on from this message, hold this prophetic declaration within your spirit. I will not surrender. I will not retreat. I will not release what God has brought together. Speak it with conviction. Write it below as a personal seal of faith. Let heaven witness your agreement, and let every force of darkness hear your determination. Chosen one, raise your head again. Your story has not reached its conclusion. Your blessing is already making its way toward you, and none of your perseverance has been wasted. May divine peace protect your heart. May favor accompany every step, and may grace lead you safely into the next chapter God has prepared. Remain aligned, remain anointed, and never forget that victory has already been written over your life.